we've had several different iterations of modern mythology over the years. However, in this vast pantheon of modern gods, very few are as interesting and symbolically rich as the Dream of the Endless is. Neil Gaiman's The Sandman saga, which debuted in the Vertigo imprint of DC Comics back in 1989, did more than redefine comic literature. It gave us someone to look up to while offering a world where the boundaries between consciousness, stories, and eternity blur constantly. Dream, despite showing up in DC, was not a superhero. He governs the ephemeral, the illusions of sleep, and the myths we build to make sense of our lives instead of punching bad guys. So, in today's video, we'll learn more about Dream and try to understand who he is as a cosmic archetype and what he truly is under the surface. So, join us for this detailed interpretation of Dream. Before we get too deep into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to the channel. It's a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Who is Dream? To understand Dream, we have to understand who he is first. Well, Dream happens to be one of the Endless. Who are they? The Endless happen to be 7 near-omnipotent beings who personify a universal force. We're not talking about light and dark or wind, air, and fire. The Endless are better known as Destiny, Death, Dream, Destruction, Desire, Despair, and Delirium, who was once known as Delight. Usually, gods exist because people believe in them, but when it comes to Eternals, they exist because their functions are intrinsic to natural life. People don't need to believe in a dream for a dream to exist. People simply need to dream, and Dream would exist as a result. Throughout the various cultures and species introduced in the comics, Dream has acquired many different names. Whether you know him as Morpheus, the Shaper of Form, Lord Lazoral, or Kai Kull, Prince of Stories, he's one and the same. On the surface, you might think that the only thing that Dream controls is the dream in the REM sleep cycle sense. But in reality, Dream controls that and more. He controls the entire realm of imagination, symbols, possibilities, and of course, narratives. Think of it this way. He's the patron deity for poets and the warden of nightmares, all in one. Dream is not mortal like you or I, nor is he divine in the traditional sense. Instead, he's more like a concept that has been given a form. He's an anthropomorphic version of the human imagination. He's older than the gods, and he would remain even after the gods died. He's been around for centuries upon centuries because whenever someone thought, whenever someone dreamt, whenever someone told a story, Dream was there. In a way, he has a cosmic grandeur about it, but despite that, he's bound by things too. Rules, rituals, and rigid personal codes. These bind Dream completely. He doesn't think of himself as anything more than the custodian of his realm, the dreaming. He takes this responsibility with a solemnity that can be considered tragic in a way, so his journey in the Sandman saga is about maintaining order and confronting change, all in the same beats. What does Dream look like? When a being is described as mythical and as grand as Morpheus has been, the character has to look the part too, doesn't he? And Morpheus does. He is the most visually iconic in all of the comics, but he's also one of the most fluid in the saga. The most recognizable form of Dream is a tall, emaciated figure with pale alabaster skin. He has high cheekbones and his hair is unkempt and ruly. He always wears dark and flowing garments that look like they've been stitched from shadow itself. The way he looks, the way he moves, it seems equal parts gothic and regal. You can see how he has the vibes of an underworld king and a romantic poet. Over the course of the comic book, we learn of his several forms, but one thing about him that never changes is his eyes. His eyes are windows into the cosmos, as they are swirling pools of starlight in a bottomless blackness. Except for his eyes, his overall form is contextual and subjective. To the ancient Martians, he was a flame-headed deity. When it comes to felines, he's a large black cat. To a Nubian queen, he looks like a regal black man. The changing appearance of Dream reinforces his status as a symbolic entity. Unlike others, he's not fixed in flesh and bone. Dream is the shape that dreams take when they become self-aware, and his aesthetic shows his solemnity, his elegance, and his detachment from the world, which befits his nature and what he stands for, creativity and consequence. His aura is melancholic and still. You could think he's cruel, but he's not. But he's not exactly warm either. He's simply a mirror to the internal landscape of his visitors. To dream of Dream is akin to seeing something ancient and unknowable. What is the nature of his mind? His physical nature is best described as incorporeal, but the same cannot be said for his inner world. His inner world is rich and complicated. It's deeply human, but alien at the same time. He's extremely intelligent, owing to his existence for over 1 billion years, and he's extremely knowledgeable as he understands metaphysics, psychology, and language in an encyclopedic nature. But his intellect isn't simply analytical, it's artistic and mythic as well. He doesn't think in an inner monologue fashion. He thinks in stories, metaphors, and symbols. His reality is shaped by narrative causality and not logic. If you look at his core, you'll understand that Dream is governed by 2 things: duty and structure. His mission is to safeguard his realm and make sure that the flow of stories, fantasies, and subconscious truth continues without anything stopping them. His loyalty to this responsibility is inflexible, which acts as a double-edged sword. This is both his flaw and his virtue. Over the years, he's garnered some rules, some cosmic and some self-imposed, to ensure that his world runs smoothly. But he does struggle with a few things, namely change, forgiveness, and empathy versus order. He struggles with change because Dream fears the erosion of the established system. There is, after all, some comfort in permanence. He doesn't like evolution, as it means there will be further chaos. However, sometimes evolution is necessary. He also struggles with forgiveness, mostly towards himself, because his guilt is monumental. This leads to harsh self-judgment, which has never helped anyone ever. Lastly, Dream is an empathic being. He feels deeply. However, to ensure that he can maintain control, Dream hides his emotions and hides behind logic. This rigidity is detrimental to him as he often isolates himself. He has a tendency to sacrifice connections for the sake of duty and punishes himself for lapses in judgment, even if those lapses were made with compassion. That is why, in a way, it's completely ironic that Dream fears his own narrative arc even though he governs stories. The very idea that he himself will change with time, falter, or grow is anathema to him. This internal conflict is the driving force behind much of the Sandman's pathos. We watch as an unchanging being is forced to evolve because if he doesn't, he will perish. What powers does Dream possess? Given that Dream is among the most potent entities in DC's metaphysical cosmos, his powers would be vast and symbolic. They're also fundamentally narrative in nature. They stem from the ontological primacy that he reflects. He's a universal constant, and his abilities show that through and through. For example, Dream can sculpt and alter the dreamscape according to his will. He can also annihilate it if there's any need. He can craft entire worlds within dreams and populate them with sentient entities, nightmares, and fantasies simply because he can. He can also determine the subconscious experiences of billions of people simultaneously. Once Dream is in dreaming, Dream is omniscient and omnipotent. He can change the laws as he wishes, bring back the dead, change the flow of time, and even bring new rules of existence. Even in the waking world, his powers can manifest as long as he can anchor the symbolic world with the tangible world. He doesn't age, does not decay, and definitely doesn't fall asleep. However, he can be replaced by another iteration of Dream if he wishes to die willingly or if he's under a lot of duress. His immortality is purely existential when you think about it. Another cool power that Dream has is summoning and binding. What we mean is that Dream can easily conjure nightmares, imprison rogue dream entities, and then command the creatures born of imagination and nightmares to his will. He can easily bind demons, spirits, and mortal souls in the dream world if there's any need for it. Dream can also take any form. Wind, sand, music, fire, shadow, all of them are symbolic transformations for Dream, and when he changes, he becomes the symbols instead of simply representing them. He can travel through realms and dimensions with ease. Dream is able to do it because he exists outside conventional physics, allowing him to go through infinite voids of time and space with ease. He also happens to be omnilingual. He can speak the language of dreams and stories that all sentient beings can understand intuitively. His ability to communicate surpasses the idea of linguistics because his speech is based on symbols instead of words. Lastly, we have his ability to perceive fate and thoughts that are woven through time. He understands patterns that others miss, and he can interpret dreams as the blueprints of reality. He has an overwhelming arsenal of abilities, but Dream rarely faults his powers. Instead, his actions are precise, deliberate, and ritualistic. His punishments are absolute, and his creations are perfect. He rarely judges people, but when he does, it's final. Dream is a powerful and horrifying being. He's horrifying simply because, although Dream can do anything he wants to do, he prefers not to do anything. But when he has to, he will, and you know for a fact that there's no way you can bypass Dream's judgment. What is the dreaming? When you talk about dream, there's literally no way you can ignore talking about the dreaming. So let's talk about it. What is the dreaming? The simplest answer is that the dreaming is the realm over which dream has absolute dominion. The dreaming is a metaphysical realm which is made up of the collective unconsciousness of all sentient beings. It's a place where imagination runs amok, dreams are made, and symbols are formed. This place has no physics, no chronology, no logic. Every time you dream, you actually enter the dreaming. This domain is alive emotionally and narratively. Dreams will shape the dreaming, but the realm also reflects the consciousness of its visitors. The dreaming is the living metaphor where everything can happen if you can think it. The geography of the dreaming is also symbolic instead of being spatial. Structures and inhabitants of the dreaming reflect ideas, unresolved emotions, and fantasies. There are a few landmarks in the dreaming, such as the Castle of Dream, where Dream lives. The library, which contains every book ever imagined but never written, is where all the unrealized creativity is stored. You have Fields of Nightmare in the dreaming, where corrupted dreams are exiled. And of course, you have the Threshold. This is the liminal space between the waking world and the dreaming, which is controlled by gates and guardians. Other than these landmarks, the dreaming is also the home of several people. You have Lucienne, the librarian, who's also Dream's closest and oldest loyal servant. You have Cain and Abel, the first murderer and the first victim, reenacting their myth over and over again, personifying the cycle of tragedy in storytelling. You have Fiddler's Green, a utopic place that is usually personified as a kindly man who also lives here, along with the Corinthian, a nightmare created by Dream that rebelled. The Corinthian shows just how cruel humanity can be. And of course, how could we forget, Dreaming is also the home of Mervyn Pumpkinhead, the janitor with a pumpkin for a head who has a blue-collar work ethic. He's mostly there for comic relief. Dream is the caretaker and the creator of this realm. He may be omnipotent in this realm, but he's not omnipresent. The architecture of this place shifts like it's a canvas, but it also acts as a reflection of Dream's inner psyche. When Dream is stable, Dreaming thrives, but when he falters, the realm crumbles and is chaotic. But overall, if we had to explain the dreaming precisely, we would say it represented the collective narrative engine of existence. It's a space where trauma is processed through allegory, a place where identity and symbols walk hand in hand, and a space where truth is told through fiction. In a way, dreaming is a cosmic necessity to maintain the proper functioning of all of reality. Can Dream be hurt or killed? There's no denying that Dream is immortal, owing to being a conceptual being. However, that doesn't mean he's invincible. He is one of the endless, and he's bound by metaphysical rules, and some of these rules are ancient and unbreakable. Dream's death is not an easy thing to achieve, but it's not impossible, and the fact that he can be killed is central to the narrative of the Sandman. In various ways, Dream can be harmed, weakened, or even destroyed. For example, in Preludes and Nocturnes, the opening arc of the Sandman, Dream is captured by a cult of occultists led by Roderick Burgess. They originally wanted to imprison Death, but ended up ensnaring Dream. And instead of letting Dream go, they kept him in a glass globe for decades and took away his tools. Dream was left there, weakened and humiliated. While he wasn't killed in this state, his captivity showed that Dream can be confined under the right circumstances, which is terrifying. And the reason Dream probably ended up remaining captive for as long as he did was because his three sacred tools, the helm, the sand, and the dreamstone, were all taken away from him. These three tools are powerful extensions of his being. Dream can exist without them, but he is severely vulnerable and diminished. When he went out on his quest to recover these items, we saw him get challenged and tested repeatedly, proving that a powerful being like Dream isn't above struggle. Now, Dream is one of the endless, who are actually concepts given form. Like every concept, which can be reincarnated and replaced, so too can Dream. In the kindly ones, we saw Dream completely pushed to his limits, and at a point of emotional and moral crisis, he willingly died. He allowed himself to be unmade, and this made way for the creation of the new Dream, Daniel. This death is symbolic, as if you look at the fine print, Dream went through a transformation. But in a way, Dream did die when he accepted the change. There's another way an endless might end up dying. You see, there are many rules that govern the endless, and most of the rules remain unstated. However, these rules are completely ironclad, and they maintain cosmic balance and responsibility. If Dream violated these principles by mistake or intentionally, he would end up bringing ruin upon himself and others. This metaphysical framework placed upon him with these rules eventually led to his undoing. His refusal to adapt, his mistakes while dealing with Orpheus, and how he becomes entangled with fate and vengeance all played a role in his undoing because of those rules that are in place. Even though Dream cannot be stabbed or shot to death like a mortal being, he is deeply vulnerable to symbolic consequences. If he falters in his duties or goes beyond his role, he will certainly be undone. This duality is what makes Dream a compelling figure. This balance makes his story both human and mythic at the same time. What are his tools and symbols? Dream's tools are important when it comes to accessing his powers. These tools embody the aspect of his essence and are the archetypal anchors that bind Dream's abstract nature to a recognizable form. Each tool has a symbolic and functional weight. Take the helm, for example. This is crafted from the bones and spine of a dead god. Even though this mask is haunting and grotesque, it's both an armor and a crown. It's the mark of authority and terror mixed together. When Dream dons the helm, he projects his full presence and commands reverence and fear everywhere, through dimensions, and more. The helm symbolically represents his dominion over fear, transformation, and the unconscious. This is the mask behind which the unknowable becomes known and takes a form. Functionally speaking, the helm allows him to project his power and even dominate other beings who are comparable to him in might and power, like the demons of hell. Next, we have the Pouch of Sand. This pouch has dream stuff. The dream stuff is the dust with which dreams are made. Once Dream has it, he can use it not only to induce sleep, but also enter minds and craft illusions. It's not just magic sand, it's a narrative substance that represents the fragility and ubiquitous nature of dreams. The sand reminds us just how easily dreams can slip through our fingers upon waking. Functionally speaking, Dream uses this pouch in the waking world when he wants to induce trances, manipulate perception, and reconnect with dreamers. Lastly, we have the Dreamstone, Ruby, which is the most powerful and volatile of his tools. This glowing red gem embedded in the pendant allows the wielder to alter reality through dreams. When the ruby ends up in the wrong hands, as we saw in Preludes and Nocturnes, we see just how catastrophic it can be. Symbolically, you could say that the ruby is the heart of dreaming. It is the condensed will of narrative and shows the dangers of unchecked imagination. Functionally speaking, Dream can reshape minds, weave illusions, and channel energy using the ruby, making it both a weapon and a creative tool. Together, when all three tools are present with Dream, they form a triad of narrative control. They represent each of Dream's responsibilities: to rule, to inspire, and to preserve order. When Dream is separated from these tools, he becomes vulnerable physically and symbolically unmoored. What is his relationship with other cosmic beings? Throughout the Sandman saga, Dream simply operates on a higher narrative plane, but that doesn't mean he exists in isolation. His world is intertwined deeply with gods, demons, and mythological beings, as well as his own family, the Endless. Each relationship we see shows a strange kind of cosmic diplomacy. His most intimate relationships have to be with his siblings, the other Endless. Death is the most beloved of the Endless. She's warm, kind, and grounded, all the traits that Dream doesn't have. So, in a way, Death acts like Dream's moral compass and confidant. On the other hand, Desire is a frequent antagonist despite being Dream's sibling. He thrives on manipulation and often intervenes in Dream's affairs. He even tried to get Dream to kill someone of their blood so that Dream could be ruined. Next, we have Despair, who is Desire's twin. While Desire is more of an active force, Despair is passive. However, her presence amplifies Dream's self-loathing. Delirium, who was once known as Delight, is a sister of Dream. She's a tragic character, and Dream treats her with affection and caution, showing a softer side of the character. We also have Destiny, the eldest of the Endless. He's blind to emotion but sees all paths. His presence is always intimidating, but he rarely ever interferes with anyone's business. Destruction, on the other hand, is the prodigal sibling who abandoned his post. Dream admires and resents Destruction for being this way and escaping duty. These relationships with the siblings build the tapestry of the Sandman saga. Every family, even the cosmic ones, have drama. Sadly, their drama can shape the fate of our world, but these aren't the only relationships we see in the Sandman. Dream interacts with gods from various pantheons, and these beings respect Dream because he is older than most of them. Dream and the gods share a relationship built on mutual respect, even though their philosophies might differ. Dream also comes across several demons like Azazel and Choronzon, whom he negotiates with. There's an air of respect there as well. We also saw him interacting with Lucifer Morningstar, the ruler of Hell, in Preludes and Nocturnes. They clearly respect each other, but they also don't like each other, which shows through each and every interaction. In fact, Lucifer promises war after Dream leaves the underworld with his tool after winning it from a demon there. Now, here's the thing. Dream exists outside the core DC superhero universe, but he does interact with John Constantine, Dr. Destiny, and Martian Manhunter on rare occasion. These meetings are few and far between and often tinged with melancholy. Dream does not belong to their world, and unless his realm is directly threatened, he does not interfere. His relationship with humans is like that as well. He's detached from them, watches over them, and shapes their dreams, but he does so because it's essential for him. He even teaches them lessons through tragedy because that's the right way to do things. He doesn't offer salvation, and he doesn't demand worship. He is there simply to influence, transform, and eternally guide humans. What does Dream want? Overall, from the way Dream interacts with everything and everyone around him, he appears to be a passive figure, a guardian of sorts instead of a seeker. He doesn't crave affection or conquest the way mortals do. His existence is because of work and not because of personal fulfillment or validation. But you can see that deep down, he has a quiet yearning that underpins his every action. What Dream wants is central to the Sandman, and the answer to that question is not very simple. Dream's primary desire is to maintain a balance between imagination and reality. The dreaming must function smoothly and provide both sanctuary and challenge to mortal minds. Dreams and nightmares have to do their jobs, whether it's to terrify, instruct, or heal. But when the dreaming becomes unstable, the very thread of reality starts to come undone. That is why Dream devotes himself to maintaining the narrative infrastructure of existence by making sure the dreaming stays thriving. He is a custodian, and his pride lies in maintaining the structure, not the glory of the outcome. Even though Dream does not acknowledge it out loud, he also wants to understand himself. He's an entity that embodies understanding the stories of others. However, that doesn't mean he understands himself. He struggles profoundly in that regard. His interactions with humans, his past lovers, and even his tragic mistakes shows that he actually wants to learn, evolve, and eventually forgive himself. But this desire is always kept in check and stopped by his own rigidity. Dream wanted meaning, but he refused to adapt to new meanings. He's trapped in a paradox that eternal beings often find themselves in. They're bound to fixed roles, but the world around them is ever evolving and ever changing. As the series progresses, we start to realize the Dream also wants some sort of redemption. Although he never says it out loud, he wants others, like his family, his realm, and his creation, to be better than he is. When Daniel, his successor, enters the picture, Dream wants Daniel to carry the dreaming forward without any of the troubles or burdens that he had. So, in this way, you could say that his deepest wish is not about him at all. Instead, Dream's deepest wish is the continuation of what he loves without the flaws that he has. Ultimately, what Dream wants is balance, understanding, and continuity. And this is where the irony actually seeps in, because the master of stories is afraid of rewriting his own story, and hence, what he wants always remains out of reach because of the identity that defines him. What makes Dream dangerous? Dream is calm and poetic. His detachment is marred by tragedy and melancholy, but don't let that fool you into thinking the Dream is a benign force. He may not be a rampaging god like the god of war or torment everyone in his path like a devil would, but his quiet solemnity is the home of an even more terrifying power. He is the eternal consequence. Dream is dangerous, not because he's evil. No, he's dangerous because he's unforgiving, incorruptible, and bound by principles that exceed emotions. When Dream chooses to act, his actions are deliberate and his retributions are absolute. He passes judgment with calm precision, like when Nada was condemned to hell for 10,000 years, or when the Corinthian was unmade completely. Dream's punishments aren't physical, they're symbolic and irreversible. When you cross him, you just might get eternal sleep, existential disintegration, or even narrative erasure. And unlike Death, who walks amongst humanity, Dream is completely detached from them. He could love mortals, but he doesn't live the way we do. So he can't judge the emotions of mortals correctly, even though those emotions guide his realm. This detachment, as you might guess, can become dangerous when he starts applying his infinite rules on beings who are, by nature, finite. This creates suffering and world-shattering consequences. Dream's domain is one of meaning. When he acts, it's thematically perfect and has weight. If Dream writes you into tragedy, you cannot escape. His decisions echo everywhere. You cannot escape a Dream, and that makes him terrifying. Marvelous verdict! He may look like a man, but he's not one. Neither is he a hero or a villain. Dream is simply a concept. He's the idea of imagination, of dreams turned to flesh. He has to maintain the dreams of every sentient being, and he governs his realm with imagination. And the contradiction in his core is what makes dreams so fascinating. He's unchanging, but he is haunted by the need to change. He's powerful, but at the same time, he's weakened because of his sense of duty and guilt. He has a great sense of justice, but never purely out of mercy. Neil Gaiman's saga isn't just the chronicle of a cosmic being, it is a mediation of consequence and human psyche, and that's why Dream is so close to our hearts. Because he represents our highest creativity and our deepest fears. As long as dreams exist, so will he. Dreams are stories, and as we all know, stories never die. Let us know what you guys think about Morpheus in the comments down below, and we'll see y'all in the next one. Thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and have a marvelous day.